Okay, now things get a lot more serious, at least for our staff, as we prepare, as you can see, for our panel discussion. So our subject is Fintech today and tomorrow in Lithuania. Legal issues getting license, pluses and minuses of establishing Fintech company in Lithuania. So our panel discussion will be moderated and hosted by Linas Sabaliauskas, managing partner at Triniti. Our participants are Richard Thompson, Vice President of Open Innovation Programs at Barclays. Also Geoff Dunnett, Director of International Growth at ShieldPay. Also Andrius Bičeika, Head of Business Development at Revolut. Rūta, Medaiskytė, Project Manager at Bank of Lithuania. And last but not least, Martynas, Pilkis, Chief Specialist at Financial Markets Policy Department at Ministry of Finance of the Republic of Lithuania. Please welcome our participants of the panel discussion.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much for an introduction. I know you're all tired off and waiting for lunch, so we'll start off right away. And today's topic is Fintech today and tomorrow in Lithuania. So the distinguished panel and panelists were already introduced. So I would like to start off with a question, maybe to Richard and our guests from UK. And I know they will hate this question. It's concerning Brexit, and well, actually, the question would be Richard or Geoff. Maybe Richard, you first. Well, there's a myth that UK fintech companies are looking for an alternative somewhere in Europe, and so do you think it's a myth or is it a reality in UK?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So, you know, what Brexit's brought is uncertainty, right? And so I say to a degree that it is a little bit of a myth in that we're not seeing a mass exodus of startups. You know, I think London continues to be a very strong ecosystem for fintech, and it probably will continue to do so for the coming years because of what the ecosystem can provide in terms of access to clients, to capital, and so forth. What will be interesting is to understand how is then bringing in new talent from Europe and how that will be impacted as we start understanding what the Brexit position will hold. And I know a lot of work's going on within government and other entities to start looking at how can we enable that talent to continue to access London. Because we're certainly fearful that in the future, that talent might start looking elsewhere rather than London.
I echo all of those comments by Rich, but I think from our perspective at ShieldPay and for regulated entities, it's a real concern of what's going to happen after. But there are ways that are being used to mitigate against those issues. So, the ability to set up subsidiaries that are then able to that you're then able to leverage for your purposes of regulatory passporting throughout Europe, and those things are sort of your Brexit planning or Brexit proofing ideas. And in that respect, we are currently looking at where that will be because we recognise that we need to have a plan in place because you're going to have to get regulated somewhere, so it's going to take time. And whether there's a way for the regulators in countries within Europe where we could go and house our regulated entity, whether there's a way of streamlining that process for FCA regulated entities, if the regulator were warm to that anywhere, to speed that process up, that would be a huge appeal to tech companies and probably make people make those moves more quickly. So one more point, for example, if you're trying to move to Ireland now to become regulated, it'll take you about 18 months to actually get a license. So given Brexit, sadly, is due in less time than that, Ireland starts becoming less of a viable option, at least immediately.
Okay, but so in that context, how does Lithuania, look from London? And well, the praise is, now it's the time for praise for Lithuania.
I'll start on this one. Well, obviously, having Revolut here, a London-based company with offices here, and there's a lot of tech talent here in Lithuania that I think ever more people. It is, and that's the same for any new jurisdiction in which we want to enter. It's the ease of regulation, so how quickly and how communicative the regulator is, and then the talent, right? So if there's sufficient talent there for us, and if there's a local market that we can operate in as well, because there's no point in just having a hub there for regulatory purposes without having real clients there.
Okay. Martynas, so what advantages Lithuanian jurisdiction offers to a fintech company, and anything that Geoff and Richard maybe mentioned?
Yes, so hello everybody, and starting about Lithuania, about 2 years ago, when the Brexit referendum happened, government of Lithuania decided that fintech is one of our priorities and we should seek for it and use it as an opportunity for our country to get high added value jobs and high added value services in Lithuania, to get you, the consumers, the best financial services cheaper, faster, in a more comfortable way, and for our people who are very talented, as our guests have noticed, to have better jobs here in Vilnius. So we have been striving really hard, and today I'm happy to say that there is more than 120 fintech companies, and the number is growing steadily. There are more than 2,000 people working in the industry, and we are very, very happy about it. Why? Okay, so question why is more for private sector who is choosing Lithuania. So I guess that Andrius might touch this in a more authoritative way than I could.
Andrius, so why have you chosen Lithuania? What advantages it does offer, except for a brilliant talent here, that CEOs that they can find here?
Okay, so for Revolut, right? So when you choose, let me switch that a bit and maybe try to see why, let's say, Lietuvos Bankas initiatives and Ministry of Finance initiatives, as well as Invest Lithuania initiatives, are so successful. I see those initiatives as B2B sales. So all of you guys are doing B2B sales. That means that you are selling to other startups, other countries, you know, other jurisdictions to kind of, okay, here we are, come here, right? It's really like B2B sales, because you cannot depend, it's outbound approach, right? Proactive approach. You cannot depend on inbound. You're not like, I don't know, some other countries, you know, we would only rely on inbound leads, right, coming there. For example, Ireland right now, in the majority of cases rely on inbound leads rather than, but the initial job they did was only outbound. So these guys are doing that part really, really well. The second thing is the actual pitch, right? So you come to this B2B sales meeting, there is an actual pitch. The key moment is that right away, you see that you're actually talking with the decision makers. I mean, with the senior guys, right? With those who wouldn't, not
from the central banks.
From the central banks or from the ministries, you see our minister is traveling with all these delegations, and Invest Lithuania is also bringing like most senior guys, so they can listen and they can make decision quicker. This is very, very important for startups, especially in fintech world. There is a reason why, you know, Revolut is known for the speed of growth. And we value that a lot. So speed for us in general is super important. So speed as one thing, right? Flexibility in terms of, you know, setting up things. There is no cutting corners. Don't get that wrong, right? There is no cutting corners for those who apply for the license year or for, you know, establishing year. There's no cutting corners, but the thing is that
you don't do money laundering or nothing. Okay, sorry.
There is that other bigger bank.
Sorry. So speed, flexibility.
Speed, flexibility, but the thing is that decisions you're speaking with the right people. That's really what you can get from the reliable partner.
And so if you don't cut corner, you can have a good regulating partner, and that's your experience.
Yes. And you know, I don't think the regulation itself is any different than any other jurisdiction, because essentially it's European Central Bank regulation, which you have to follow. All those local regulators are following. So.
And can you tell? I mean, if you've experienced different regulators, maybe you can tell how Lithuanian bank is better than others.
You call them, you say, hey, hello, it's us, Revolut. Who? Can you spell the name? So that would be other regulators. It just tells the thing, one of the aspects, right, of the things. As you said, even Ireland is, these 18 months, it's even on the longer side than the framework here would allow, depending on the. It's not even banking license. I think it's like, yeah.
Right. Rūta, you represent Lithuanian Central Bank today, and the question is, well, central banks previously were used to regulate, you know, big banks and insurance companies with thousands of people, and, you know, internal rules and regulations and everything in place, whereas fintech companies, startups, are mostly lean companies with, well, few people, maybe not all of them experts. So how are you coping with it, or employees are coping with this new subject, or market participants in Lithuania?
Well, since Andrius has already done the promotion of the Bank of Lithuania, so I don't need to do anything more about this. And about coping, I mean, there are big businesses, they are complicated. You need a lot of resources to understand what is going on, what are connections, and what's happening after what. These new entrants into the market, they are pretty simple. So, I mean, to understand a simple model, you need less time than to understand big complicated organizations with complicated structures. So, our main thing probably is just to have a clarity from the applicant what they want to do. I mean, probably the ones who are coming here to us, they know themselves really well. They know what they want to do, but just for them to know, we don't know you. So one thing that we need, just very well explanation, what are you about? That's it. Everything clearly put in the application, and then it's 3 months and you have a license. And it's portable in the European Union if we're talking about payments institutions. If we're talking about the bank, well, the process is a bit longer, but still we are as flexible as possible. And at the initial stage, since I represent the program for newcomers, so if you write to us, we usually answer to you in 1 day for the initial context. And then further on, we can proceed with your business model. We can discuss your business model with you, try to understand it with you, try to help you with next steps. And so...
But where do you draw the line? It doesn't mean that you do the business plan for the startups and then for fintech companies. So.
Of course, no. We are regulators, so regulators don't write business plans. Regulators are the ones who issue you a permit to provide services. So you do your homework, think what your business is about, present it to us, and we, of course, we ensure a level playing field for everybody who is coming. So, I mean, you experience the same requirements, the same standards, not only at the Lithuanian level, but of course at the European level, because regulation, all the legislation is the same. So, when we issue a license, your license should be accepted by other EU regulators, and that's why we have same requirements that you have to fulfill. So our requirements are EU requirements, and I guess that's a plus, because you then can waive your license and, hey, I'm licensed according to EU standards.
So it's a huge market. So I just wanted to break in the conversation. It's a huge market. We as Lithuania is just a part of London. How many people in London do you have living? 10 million, I guess. Yeah, so in Lithuania we have less than 3 million people in the whole country. So it is not very much attractive to come to serve 3 million people. So Bank of Lithuania is always saying that we are a gateway to Europe. We need to be the gateway to Europe to serve people in the European Union, 500 people, more than 500 million people, and you can serve it from Tech Park of Vilnius. And it's perfect opportunity for those coming to Lithuania, and we're using it.
Okay, and Martynas, on one hand, Lithuania is promoting fintech, or Lithuania as a fintech hub. On the other hand, there was some controversy regarding blockchain and mixed messages sent from different institutions, tax authorities, Ministry of Finance. So maybe you can tell what's the future. Is there, because I heard there's a task force under Ministry of Finance. Do you know when the unified report will come out, or what's the future for that? Is it welcome or not?
Yeah, so fintech is a priority for government of Lithuania, but what is even more important in our case is that fintech is a priority for lots of people in Lithuania too. So it means that you here, the people, and majority of you are from Lithuania. Fintech is a priority for you. So what we see from government side, that there is lots of activity going on in crypto area and the initial coin offerings. I have seen statistics telling that Lithuania is number 3 after China and United States when measuring the volume of tokens sold during the initial coin offerings. And that's huge, and it is a surprise for government as well, okay? So the government knows that this is a phenomenon which is important for at least big part of Lithuanians. So we have assembled a task force which is provided with a task to create the guidelines for initial coin offerings. It encompasses taxation issues, it encompasses auditing and accounting, it encompasses anti-money laundering procedures, which is very important for us and for society at large. So we are looking at it and we are closely monitoring, yes.
And I guess I can add that we as regulators We are also not trying to put everything somewhere in the margins and to ignore this area. But if you have your ICO business case, we really welcome for you to come to the Bank of Lithuania and to present it. And we have dedicated persons who will learn from you, and we will give you a feedback. Does it fall under regulation? Do you need to do something, or is it okay to be unregulated? So we are open for these kind of consultations. You have a feedback from us if by case you don't fall for something which should be regulated and not by chance making something illegal. And for us, of course, it's a benefit. We know who you are and what is happening.
And Rūta, Lithuanian Bank is, has a lot of new initiatives, modern initiatives, LB chain and sandbox regime. Can you tell about those? Are they functioning already? Is it only projects in plan, or about this?
These are currently in the project stage. They are not finished, but we are working on that. So we expect to have two different sandboxes. One would be a regulatory sandbox. So for you, if you have something very innovative that doesn't have a license yet, you would be able to apply for the bank to say, hey, I have a very, very innovative, new, unseen product before. And I want to try it, and you would get, if you get an approval, so you can try with it under the defined conditions. So this is regulatory sandbox, and get a regulatory report. And another one project that we are working in is a technological sandbox. So this would be meant for you to test your product on our blockchain. So these are things that we expect to offer to the market soon.
Very good. Andrius, you mentioned that you have a very good attitude towards your company from the board, from the decision makers. How was it working with middle office in the bank? Was it easy for you to work with them?
I mean, there's no one to benchmark against, but it was as easy as possible, right? It's like the highest standards, quick, efficient. I'm not sure the SLA of 24 hours. Sometimes maybe SLA is a bit longer, sometimes quicker, but you can even, I'm not going to tell specifically who is writing, but sometimes you can even receive a message from Bank of Lithuania at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, if it's something,
So no bureaucratic attitude.
I'm just wondering, how many of you are getting the license after this panel? we talk to everyone like you all should get the license, just as a
You should.
Yeah.
Can I get one before I leave this evening?
Yeah, exactly. Here's the menu.
But Geoff, since you were also, fellow lawyer here, can you tell? And you know FCA being a fintech company in the UK. Can you tell what would be for you crucial that, and maybe FCA does, and what we could learn, like best practices here for Lithuanian Central Bank? What would be cool for you to find here as well?
Yeah, well, I think the sandbox environment that you've just been talking about has been hugely successful in the UK for innovative products, although difficult to get into. So
what do you mean by that?
So in order, you really have to demonstrate true innovation in order to get into that. So there aren't that many companies that have gone through it, and so you are still left with the requirement to, in the UK, that is, in most instances, to go straight to full authorization prior to you being able to really fully test an assumption. So that, there's a sandbox environment for really innovative products that are testing regulation, but something that's missing, I think, in the UK, and would be a really cool thing to see from another regulator would be a sort of halfway house, that yes, you are on the path to full authorization, but you don't need the capital requirements and the etc. in order to then actually fully become authorized. Maybe it's for it's kind of a proof of concept type phase would be interesting to see from a regulator, which we don't have, but that would be nice to see.
Right, and it's not in place at the moment with the FC.
It's not, and I don't know whether it's. I don't think it's on their roadmap as such, but it's. I mean, there has to be a barrier, right? You can't, because otherwise, anyone could set up a financially regulated entity, and we don't want that necessarily. As much as the consumer should have lots of choice, they also should have the right choices rather than a scattered approach.
Richard, maybe you have anything to add? What would be fantastic to have here in Lithuania, best practice?
Yeah, so so it's massively encouraging to hear that you're taking the sandbox approach. I think enabling that dialogue between big banks like Barclays, small nimble businesses and the regulator, it's a good dialogue to be able to always move forward. So I think that's definitely been one of notable things that the British government have pushed. I'd like to touch about, I guess, like kind of part of the wider Tech City, initiative around how, I think what they've done really well is thinking about how they can create this ecosystem, very much around kind of like Shoreditch and around, kind of Canary Wharf and those areas. Because I think the truth of the matter is that when you have all the major parties and stakeholders within finance around each other, they'll be able to have real conversations, be able to really make things happen. And if you can have the framework to enable that to happen and bring in the trade delegations that people like UKTI are really pushing, it creates the melting pot of everything that allows you to then really innovate. Another element around how, you can leverage things like EIS to be able to actually get capital into these firms to help them grow. Just educating the market, I think is just something that's been really powerful from the UK government.
Good. Well, thank you very much, and I think that's about it. I think we've run out of time, and I would like to give this fantastic panel a big round of applause. Thank you very much.